What optics should you put on your AR-15? We're going to answer that right now with Pete Schreier from Vortex Edge and Vortex Optics. This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Colt, Meprolight, Walther, and Leupold. Welcome into Gun Talk Nation. We are back with another one, and this one's going to be fun because on the show this week, we've got Pete Schreier from Vortex Edge. Pete, welcome in.
Hey, thank you, Ryan.
So Vortex, people know Vortex Optics, but take a minute and explain Vortex Edge.
So Vortex Edge is kind of our training division. We're situated down here on the range, and we offer shooting classes that are open to the public. Anybody's invited, military, police, private citizens. One of our mantras down here is shooting is shooting. We're going to teach you how to shoot fast, teach you how to shoot accurate. And these are all things that could be applied for a lot of different situations, where it's competitive shooting, just for fun, or if you need to use it for self-defense, or if you're a police officer in the line of duty. So, yeah.
Very cool. I actually got to go up and...
What's that?
I was just going to say, I got to go up and visit you guys at Vortex Edge in December. Fantastic facility. And how long has it been around?
So the facility itself started in 2018. Started out with two ranges, the 50 and the 100. About 2 years later, we expanded. We added a 25-yard range, a test range, indoor shoot house that we can use simunitions in, and a Virtua system. So, yeah, the current configuration we've had set up for about 3 years now.
Yeah, and when Pete says, 100-yard range, 50-yard range, these are all indoors.
Yeah.
Which is really helpful in Wisconsin in February.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Also really handy, we teach some night vision classes, and we can do those during the day. We have full control over the environment. We can shut the lights off pitch black, or we can put illumination in there. So it's really nice. We can teach an 8-hour night vision class, and we could be out of here by 5 o'clock at night. So
that is cool. Yeah. Old school night vision class. It's like you're just walking around in the dark until 3 o'clock in the morning or something.
Yep.
So you guys, Vortex, you guys put out a lot of content, as obviously known for optics, scopes, binos, red dots, everything under the sun when it comes to optics, rangefinders. But there was an article that came across my email, how to pick the perfect optic for your AR, which enticing. Good clickbaity title. Good for SEO. I get it. I was like, man, we need to have you guys on because this is, I think, an issue, a subject matter that people have lots of questions about. And there's so many different ways to go, especially when you think about optics for an AR, whether that's a magnified optic or not. Maybe a place to start is, how do you choose between the red dots, the prism sights, the low powered variable optics, and then maybe we can kind of go into, each one of those and kind of narrowing it down a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of nice to have options. It can also get really confusing though. I don't really want to date myself here, but when I started in the Army in 1998, there weren't any of these options. It was iron sights. I was in light infantry, and I was in a very unique time in the Army when I was there when we got our first red dots. So I was there through a very painful process. They handed us these red dots. We really didn't know how to use them or what the purpose was. And then 2 years later, we kind of understood it. So I have a unique...
What was that like, Pete? Like when you guys were the first ones getting the red dots, and people take it for granted, right? You're like, oh yeah, red dots.
Right.
Put it on the gun.
Yeah, just a red dot.
What was the reaction from you guys when you first started using them?
Well, we didn't really understand. Like the Army at the time, they gave us a lot of really cool stuff and absolutely zero training and context and why. And you had to look at it. Light infantry, I was in 10th Mountain Division at the time. We were doing movement to contact training, clearing trenches, things like that. And, we hadn't really got into a lot of CQB training. And so they handed us this sight that wasn't magnified. It was this unmagnified scope. And we're just looking at each other like, what? And it was about 6 months later, we had just had them in the arms room. And 6 months later, I got a new squad leader who had served some time in Ranger Regiment. And he's like, yeah, put these on your gun. You're going to use them. Kind of showed us how. And then we actually went to a CQB range. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, 20 plus years later, I don't think I wouldn't have an optic on my rifle at all. Okay.
The red dot light bulb went on for you guys.
Exactly. Exactly. So going back to the original question though, like what optic is best for your AR? I think you need to know what you're going to use your AR for. That's the biggest thing. Like when we teach classes here, given our facility and what we want to teach with carbine, like our carbine 1 curriculum kind of, it's like from 5 yards about all the way to 50 yards. Okay.
Okay.
So, you know, an LPVO, while that would work at those distances, it's not really ideal and it's kind of unnecessary, you know, out to 50 yards.
Yeah, and LPVO, I mean, for it's sort of like inside baseball talk, but low power variable optic, typically a 1 to 4 power, 1 to 6, 1 to 8. You guys have 1 to 10s now.
1 to 10, yeah.
Which is crazy. But basically, you can go from 0 magnification out to magnified optic, like it's a rifle scope.
Right. It looks kind of like a traditional rifle scope. So if you know you're just looking to shoot the AR out to 50 yards, some would argue you don't even really need magnification. Okay. Mm-hmm. Really common for people in our classes. Magnification doesn't help you shoot; it helps you see. Okay. And if you have problems seeing something at 50 yards, you know, you might need to get your eyes checked a little bit. Okay. So you got to know what you want your rifle to do. Okay. If you want to clang steel at 600-700 yards, then yeah, LPVO, maybe some, you know, higher power optics like a 3 to 18, that would be really great. But, you know, if you're going to shoot from even 0 to 50 or even 0 to 100, and that's all you're really going to do, man, that red dot, that is the place to start, I think. Most of them are really simple to mount up. Most of them come with their own mounts. You don't have to worry about eye relief, things like that. And they're fast. They're really fast. They can be very intuitive with a little bit of training how to use, but they're very fast. So, you know,
fast to acquire the target. I mean, right. And the reason they're fast is without the magnification, you have a wider field of view.
Right.
And you're not having to adjust, and you can shoot both eyes open. So now you seriously have a wider field of view. Now, I mean, also you mentioned eye relief, and basically there's no issue with eye relief when it's not magnified, meaning that it doesn't matter how close or far your eye is to the optic. And of course, most modern ARs are some type of flat top, big, long Picatinny rail. So you can mount the optic wherever you want. That being said, now we're going to start an argument. Where do you recommend putting the red dot?
So one of those things, it doesn't kind of really matter. I kind of actually recommend putting it towards the front of the receiver. Okay. And the reason why is this is the next thing I'm going to talk about is I can add a magnifier on that very easily.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So this is kind of my ideal location towards front, still on the actual upper receiver, not actually on the hand guard, but kind of mounted forward. And that gives me some room for accessories in the back. You know, especially if I wanted to add a magnifier. That's kind of what I recommend.
You know, that's something that I it's not necessarily new, but I still think is just such a cool option for people is a red dot with a magnifier that will flip on and off basically out of the way. And you guys have a few different magnifiers.
Yeah. The one I kind of recommend is this 3X Micro 3X. I think to me, you look at cost, size, everything, it's kind of the perfect little optic. You know, Vortex, we make really, really cool LPVOs. I got to tell you, most of the guys down here, we kind of like magnifiers. They're not really cool, but they are incredibly useful, and they really give people a lot of options, you know, especially for like a budget-minded individual, you know. Yeah. Just bought a brand new AR. You know, sometimes it might be a lot to ask $1,500 to put a piece of glass on top and then get a mount and then mount it up. Well, if you start with about a $300 red dot, you can then kind of throw a magnifier on later. It doesn't have to be a one-time, it doesn't have to be a total package. You can add that on later. So you can go from a red dot, and now for another $300, now you have a red dot combo with a magnifier. And to me, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. You get all the benefits of the red dot, and then you get a little bit of magnification, and you can really start stretching the legs on the rifle. And really, for me, the only limiting factor is the reticle you use. We have just this Spark Solar just has a regular dot, so I can push this out to 300, maybe 400 yards. If I'm shooting at man-sized targets, I have to know my holdovers. Okay. But for 90% of the stuff we do, this setup right here for $600 can kind of do it all. We get all the advantages. If I know I'm not using the magnifier, I can just take it off the gun, so I can get rid of the excess weight. I can flip it out of the way. I really, everybody thinks LPVOs are cool, and they really are. But man, don't discount the magnifier and red dot. That is something that I think years ago people thought they were just going to go away, but it's not going away, and it's still a really, really viable option.
Yeah, and it's a good point. What you're saying is like, you want to put an optic onto the gun. Red dot is a place to start that doesn't cost as much money. Now, what about someone who says, well, wait a minute, red dot is not magnified. It's just a dot. It's an aiming point, and I already have iron sights. I mean, iron sights versus a red dot. If you have a buddy asking you, why put a red dot if I already have iron sights, what would you say?
Ooh, well, I'm 46, and I had to start wearing these a couple years ago.
Get your readers.
I don't even think I can honestly use iron sights anymore. Red dots really help somebody actually maximize their potential with an AR. Okay, it really simplifies things. Okay, I'm not trying to line up that front sight, and that rear aperture anymore. Depending on the distance you're at, and I'm not going to get into parallax. I mean, everybody markets these as parallax free. They are not. There's always a little bit of parallax, but basically in the distances you're going to use this AR, if you see the dot on the target and you do your job, you're going to hit what you're aiming at. And a red dot's really going to simplify that. It also allows you to be way more target focused. Okay, it's a lot easier to focus on the target. Okay, instead of like coming back trying to find your front sight, trying to line everything up, I can focus on the target and I can still see that dot up close, and it makes things a lot faster, and it makes things a lot easier.
Your eyes aren't bouncing back and forth to the target, to the sights, to the target, to the sights. Right. You're looking at the target. There's a dot that's kind of magically there.
Yeah, I am focused on that target. That is something. It's just kind of evolved in the last couple of years. I think we were always doing it, but now they're really talking about it and pushing it. And target focus is really the way to shoot. And a red dot allows you to do that. If you're not doing performance shooting, and if you're just trying to shoot for accuracy, the argument I would make against a red dot versus irons, even like a 4 MO8 red dot's still going to be smaller than your front sight on your AR-15. It's still going to be a little narrower. So yeah,
and we should talk about that, right?
Iron sights. I think optics are getting to the point, especially red dots now. They're actually starting to get cheaper than really, really good quality flip up rear sights. Okay, like you can go out there and spend $300 on flip up rear sights, or you can just get a red dot. So. Iron sights still have their place. I think it's mostly in a backup role, okay, in case your batteries die or something catastrophic happens to your sight. But man, for my money, just go with the red dot. Go with the red dot.
Okay. Well, and you mentioned, dot size. So, I mean, some people may be aware, some are not. I mean, there is a actual red dot when you're looking through this thing, but the size of the dot depends on which model you buy. A 2 MOA, 4 MOA, 6 MOA, meaning like 6 inches at 100 yards would be what the dot appears on the target at a 100-yard target, correct?
Right. In theory, and there's always things that change that, okay? Astigmatism, if you have perfect eyes, that dot will look exactly 6 inches at 100 yards. I've heard arguments between 2 and 4 MOA. I think it's really more based on the quality of the dot, and then once again, what you're going to do with it. If you're shooting really fast at about 10 to 15 yards, you're not going to see a dot. You're going to see this streak or one of these inside your window. So it doesn't really matter. If you want to shoot stuff at range, going back to that magnifier with the red dot, putting that thing on there, it has a diopter on there. So you can kind of clean up that image. So if your dot looks really super big and bloomed, you can turn it down, and then you can actually use that diopter to clean that up. So, you know, the 2 MOA dot on the Spark Solar is really good. I don't think there's anything really wrong with a 4 MOA dot. You just got to kind of do your research. A lot of it's personal preference. The thing I would recommend to people is don't get wrapped up. Hey, my dot doesn't look perfectly round, crisp, and clear. Okay. That's one of those things that doesn't really matter as much as people think it does. Okay.
And like you kind of said earlier, it kind of depends on the person's eyesight. Okay. After this quick break, I want to talk about co-witnessing. This is a hot subject for a lot of people. The newest gun from Colt is one that no one expected. It's the CBX, and it's a bolt gun. It's been 10 years since Colt actually had a bolt gun out, and now they've entered back into the market as an entry-level rifle for the Precision Rifle Series competition, PRS. So it's a chassis gun. It comes in with a lot of bells and whistles. You can get it in 308 or 6.5 Creedmoor, a 24-inch barrel, or a 26-inch barrel. And I've shot it. It has a really nice trigger, too. Fully adjustable stock. So check out the Colt CBX. Meprolight. Meprolight is known for a lot of things. They make optics, and they also make sights for your pistol. I know you're like, well, my pistol already has sights on it. Why would I upgrade? Well, you might want to upgrade because we're talking about either night sights or hyper bright, which are extremely bright day and night sights. They have it for a lot of different models of pistols, and either you can install them or you can bring them to a gunsmith and have them installed. But rapid instinctive aiming, these are sights that are easier to see, which makes you shoot faster, aim better, all those things. Tritium powered, so it's going to work day or night. And they have for a lot of different models. They're called the Meprolight Hyper Bright day and night sights for your pistol. Check them out at meprolight.com. Walther, what's old is new again, and this is the final countdown for this guy. Walther's P99 as the final edition. This is the last year that Walther is going to be offering the P99. And when the P99 was introduced back a couple decades ago, super innovative. It's a DA pull, SA pull. It was the first gun, actually, with interchangeable backstraps. And they're bringing it back for this final run with a special final edition on the slide, as well as an OD green frame, which really looks good, but it's kind of an homage to how it came out when it was first introduced. It's a fun design, and it's a good shooting pistol still, even though it's not necessarily a new design. You can learn more at waltherarms.com about the P99 final edition. Leupold's newest scope is a 2 to 10 power Mark V HD, 2 to 10. So I'd still call that a low power variable optic, but it's not a 1 to something. It's 2 to 10, which gives you 5x magnification. So versatile 5 to 1 zoom ratio, 5 times more magnification at high power than at low power, which just makes it a very versatile scope. It's still in a very compact package, and I think it can do a lot of things well. It's a 35 millimeter main tube, waterproof, fog-proof, shock-proof, and you can get it in mils or MOAs. Obviously, people trust Leupold. You can learn more at leupold.com to check out the new Mark V HD 2 to 10 power. One of the guns that people just love from Ruger is the LCP, small pocket carry type gun. Well, now they have the LCP Max they brought out a year or two ago, and the LCP Max is almost as small as the original LCP, but it fits more rounds. So it's 10+1 rounds in the same footprint as the LCP2. It's light It's compact, easy to carry, could be a pocket-sized gun, certainly very easy to carry on the waistband, or if you're going to carry it off body, that's a good option too because it's a pretty small gun. They've made improvements to it. Reversible magazine release. You can also get it with a 12-round magazine. And when we talk about lightweight, we're talking about 10 ounces. 10 plus 1 capacity of 380 could be a really good option for you, and you're going to be holding more rounds. So the Ruger LCP Max, go check it out for your concealed carry needs. All right. One of the things that people love to argue about, especially online, is co-witnessing. And I think that there's perhaps some confusion about what co-witnessing is or isn't. You guys probably get those questions at Vortex Edge all the time. I mean, what's your answer when people say, should I co-witness? Does it co-witness? I mean, how do you explain that?
Well, the thing I despise is absolute co-witness. Okay. And that is when you have an optic set to a height and then you have iron sights that are exactly the same height and everything lines up. The theory I hear behind this is, well, I've been trained with iron sights, so if I have a red dot there, it'll be a lot easier for me. And there's also a difference between, are they flip up or are they fixed? I think we kind of live in the day and age where fixed front and rear sights are kind of the thing of the past. You really have to, if you have a fixed front sight, it's not the end of the world. But I absolutely don't like iron sights that absolutely co-witness with your optic. The problem is people tend to not really understand how to use the optic. They try to line everything up. They try to focus on the iron sight and then line up their red dot in there. And you're not really using the advantages of either system. You're kind of really negating the red dot to begin with, okay? Don't try to line any of that stuff up. Like I tell students, we're looking at the target, we're looking at the dot. If your focus is where it should be, you shouldn't even notice those iron sights in there, okay? So
right.
You're going to have them, don't have an absolute co-witness.
Yeah, I'll just add to Pete's being nice. Stop doing that. Don't line everything up. It's slower. It doesn't make any damn sense. Just use the dot. If you've got a dot, use the dot.
Use the dot. Yeah, man. It's 2023. Okay. Not having an optic or a dot on your rifle is kind of like not having indoor plumbing. Okay. So, absolutely you need to have some kind of backup iron sight on the rifle in case something happens,
sure.
Especially if you're an armed professional. But don't get wrapped around the axle about everything lining up perfectly. Please don't do that because you're missing the point. I'm okay with sights that are kind of in the lower 1/3. All right, so your optic might sit up here, and then if you flip them up, they kind of stick in the lower 1/3 of your field of view. I'm okay with that, but once again, I would prefer that they're flipped down. Okay.
But you're seeing them through the window of the optic, but not interrupting the use of the dot.
Right. And, once again, this stuff kind of came about in the early years when optics weren't as reliable. Battery life wasn't as reliable. Like I said, when I started out in the Army, it seemed like, you forgot to turn your aim point off. The next time you went and grabbed it, that thing was dead. Now we got optics that last for 5 years.
Yeah. We're measuring battery life in years. I mean, come on.
Yes.
In presidential elections.
Yes, absolutely. And I would argue the weight of the batteries to store on your rifle is still way less than an extra set of iron sights. So I don't even want to go down this road. I know some armed professionals that don't even have backup iron sights on their rifles. Okay. When you start adding other stuff like magnifiers and lights and optics and lasers, depending on what spectrum you're in, sometimes things just have to get left behind. So
yeah.
But yeah, if you're gonna run iron sights, maybe even a 45-degree angle isn't too bad, so if you just rotate everything out of the way and your backup sights are there. But yeah, please stop thinking you need to do an absolute co-witness with your iron sights. You got one sighting system, use one at a time.
Yeah. So Pete, but like we kind of talked about it earlier, but for like ultimate versatility and obviously an AR, depending on your setup, even a traditional 16-inch barreled 5.56 AR, you can make shots out to 300, 400 yards. So now we're talking about LPVOs, low power variable optics, as another really good option. And it's a really popular one lately. when do you kind of make that switch to say, okay, LPVO is where you want to go?
Well, once again, hey, what are you planning on doing with the rifle? Do you really need it to stretch its legs? Do you need to go past that 400, 500, 600 yard range? Is that where you're going to spend the majority of your shooting? Do I still need to shoot up fast and up close? Okay. Also, is weight not a consideration? LPVOs tend to get kind of heavy. Do I know what I'm doing? All right. I can speak from personal experience here. Had a lot of experience with red dots. Someone handed me LPVO. They're like, hey, man, you got to mount this up. I'm like, huh? What? I didn't know what a torque wrench was. I didn't know how to do that. There's extra costs. There's extra skills. I can speak for everybody here. Probably our number one issue with LPVOs is they're not mounted correctly when students come, and guys just don't know how to mount them. So there is some training to it. But once you get that initial investment and you understand the system, there are a lot of benefits. There are a lot of benefits. For starters, you have data inside that reticle now. You have, it's not just a red dot. Okay, you can run an MRAD reticle, you can run a BDC reticle. That allows me to actually stretch my legs a little bit and actually shoot farther, engage targets farther. Plus, like I'm thinking like the 1-6, really great on 1 power, not quite as fast as a red dot, but kind of getting there. Okay, kind of still in that same ballpark. So you can shoot both eyes open. You can use that on 1 power. And now I have the ability to actually shoot farther. But honestly, at a penalty of maybe cost and weight.
Right. Yeah. And then another category that maybe isn't getting as much love or attention these days, because we talk about red dots, we talk about LPVOs all the time, but prism scopes. I mean, people probably know them, but they don't realize what they're talking about.
Right. Like the most famous prism scope is probably an ACOG. I mean, that's the one we think of. There are some benefits there. You don't necessarily need a battery for them. Okay. There's an etched reticle in there. So once again, you get that little data that you get with the LPVO. You can kind of take them out to far range, but you don't really get the benefits of the red dot. So it's kind of like this middle ground. There's still a place for them. I think if you just want to put them on a rifle and plink with them, I think they're a really great option. If you don't want to spend the money necessarily on an LPVO.
And they're typically fairly simple and fairly rugged.
Right. You don't really need a torque wrench to mount them up. You don't need to know how to level a scope. I know ours come with a mount. You just throw them on your rifle. You still get the benefit of using a diopter on there. So if your eyesight's not the best, you can kind of adjust that reticle image to you. So there are a lot of benefits. But once again, you got to know what role your rifle's looking to fill. If you just want to grab a 16-inch rifle and you're just going to be plinking at stuff at 200-300 yards all day, that prism scope's going to kind of fit your role. But like if you're a police officer, I don't know if a fixed power anything's really that great to use professionally. Okay, you're kind of at that fixed 3 or 5 power. It's really kind of hard to shoot up close and fast with both eyes open when you have any kind of fixed image. So that's the biggest thing. I think people just need a little bit of education, and they need to kind of decide, hey, what do I want to use this rifle for? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's good information. So Pete, you guys are at Vortex Edge. You got the training facility there. People can come take classes. What are some of the classes you guys have coming up, or maybe if they want to take a class with you, what do you have coming up?
Yeah, so right now we're in the middle of a pistol pipeline. We got pistol 1, pistol 2 going on this week. Then we kind of shut down for a couple days. We're running our USPSA match. A lot of us are really big into competition shooting, so we throw that on for the public. That'll be this Saturday. Looks like we're getting into our carbine pipeline next week. Honestly, I don't even know why I'm telling you about these classes right now, because the ones this week, they're all sold out. Okay.
Yeah, we need information on the ones in like March and April.
Yeah. So I think our May schedule is coming out pretty soon.
Okay.
I would recommend guys, check the website. We're dropping classes every month. So June will drop, then July will drop. If you're interested in coming train with us, please check the website. One of the benefits we have to our classes is we try to keep them small. Okay. I have been to training before where there were 24 other people on the line. I didn't really feel like I got anything out of it. I didn't get any feedback from the instructor. We typically have about 3 instructors, and we usually limit the class size. Intro classes, we usually limit to 5 or 6 people. And then like our normal pipeline classes, we usually limit to about 8, because we want to give guys a lot of attention, a lot of feedback. The unfortunate thing about that is they tend to fill up really, really quick. So yeah, I would check the website. We have classes going on all the time. We also have long range classes starting up this summer. That's really been popular, our long range pipeline. First day, long range one, we'll get guys hitting steel all the way out to 1,000 yards. So that's a really good time. We've also started a 1-day intro to CCW class. We just kicked that off. We're pretty excited about that. But we're teaching pistol, carbine. We also have an intro to reloading class that's taught by one of the guys here. And I've seen a lot of interest in that. 2-day class, you come in, learn how to load 6.5 Creedmoor, kind of understand the whole process behind it. And even if you don't want to get into reloading, I really recommend somebody take that class, because it really kind of helps you understand a lot of things with shooting.
Well, Pete, man, this has been good information. I love the fact that obviously Vortex is an optics company, but you have this whole training side. And, you know, I saw it firsthand, seriously committed to helping people get trained up and learn more about their guns and how to use their optics and all that stuff. And if they want to find out more, you go to vortexoptics.com/Vortex Edge, or just Google
Vortex Edge. Yep.
Vortex Edge, right?
Yep. Just Google it, man. We're there. I don't know the actual website anymore.
Awesome. Well, Pete, appreciate the time, man. And guys, hope that was helpful. Now you know some options on putting optics on your AR. And if you have that AR that you bought because you just thought you should, and it's been sitting in your closet and you haven't done anything with it, now you have an option. Put an optic on it, sight it in. It's fun. Go shoot it. You know, buying guns is fun, but shooting them is more fun. That's it for us. We will see you guys next time on Gun Talk Nation.